This video and every video on this channel is made possible by your support on patreon.com/616entertainment. I couldn't do this without you, and your contributions keep this channel alive. You can also grab an official shirt over on prowrestlingtees.com/616entertainment. We live in a world inundated with superheroes. It's 2022, very nearly 2023 at the time that I'm writing this. Look around. Video games? Superheroes. Television? Superheroes. Movies? Superheroes. They're everywhere. They're everything. They're unavoidable. But it wasn't always this way. Flash yourself back to 1978. The Atari 2600 is just 1 year old. Muhammad Ali and Leon Spinks would trade the heavyweight championship of the world in 2 classic bouts. The first entries into both the Star Wars and Halloween franchises would hit the big screen, each making major waves in their respective genres. Superheroes obviously existed at the time, but they didn't dominate every corner of popular culture. There's a reason I chose 1978 though. That wasn't just a random year I punched into the old nostalgia machine. This year is relevant to the topic at hand because it was this year that Superman, a full 40 years after making his comic book debut, would finally make the jump to the silver screen. At the time, Superman the movie would set the record as the most expensive film ever made. Its box office gross would surprise even its greatest supporters. But behind the scenes, tempers would flare, leading to the future of the franchise being called into question before the film was even finished. And this is only the beginning. What's up, Dan-Dans? My name is Ian. Welcome to Superman for Everyone, the show that opens the world of the Man of Steel to hardcores and casuals alike. All are welcome here. Today's focus is 1978's Superman the movie, but you already know that. You saw the thumbnail, you saw the title of the video before you clicked on this. If you guys enjoyed this episode and you want to see me cover Superman 2, Superman 3, Superman 4, so on and so forth in depth, let me know down in the comments. I mean, 2023 will be the 10-year anniversary of Man of Steel, and you know I want to talk about that in detail, so let me know what you want to see out of Superman for Everyone going forward. But enough talk, enough setup, let's get to it. Let's go in depth on Superman the movie. Now, sometimes I'd like to talk about how a film came to be before I jump into the story. If you've seen the history of Halloween, you know that all too well. So let's not do that today. Let's give a quick rundown of the story first. That way, if you've never seen Superman the movie, you'll be caught up. And if you have seen it, we're not spending 20 minutes building up to the part that you already know. Millions of light years from Earth, the planet Krypton teeters on the brink of calamity. A group of leaders sentence 3 evildoers away to some nightmare hellscape. This is all explained in Superman 2. And that's when Jor-El, one of Krypton's head honchos, gets together with his wife as they send away their only son, Kal-El. The course for Kal's rocket is plotted for Earth, where he crash lands in front of Jonathan and Martha Kent. Within seconds, it becomes clear that this baby is no normal baby. Kal-El, now named Clark Kent, grows up on a farm in Smallville, Kansas, doing what normal kids do. He's involved in extracurricular activities, he wants to hang with the girls, he beats speeding locomotives in a foot race, you know, the normal stuff. When his father unexpectedly passes away and Clark discovers a small sliver of his true origin, he decides it's time to set off in search of who he really is, who he's going to be for the rest of his life. Following both his heart and the key left behind in the shed, Clark eventually unlocks the Fortress of Solitude, where his biological father, Jor-El, has stored thousands of years worth of history for dozens of distant galaxies. With his abilities explained to him for the first time in detail by someone who knows exactly who and what he truly is, Clark's life changes forever. More than 10 years later, Clark Kent arrives in Metropolis. He's a bumbling, stumbling, awkward, goofy writer for the Daily Planet. He's deeply infatuated with Lois Lane, a woman who barely recognizes his existence. When the two are robbed at gunpoint, Clark clams up, scared to death. It's Lois who tries to fight away, and when the robber's gun goes off, come on. Clark Kent arrived in Metropolis, but this is no longer simply Clark Kent. Underneath that shirt and tie, behind those glasses, is Superman. When Lois Lane's helicopter malfunctions and she falls to her certain death, Superman is there to catch her. He's there to catch the helicopter as well. My goodness. A burglar scaling a skyscraper looking to get away with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of diamonds? I don't think so, pal. Take 'em away, boys. When a group of thieves evade police during a high-speed chase and escape out onto the water, come on now, you know where this goes.
Bad vibrations?
Whether it's a commercial jet's engine exploding mid-flight, threatening the lives of hundreds of people, or even a little kitty cat stuck in a tree, look, you can file it all under, "This looks like a job for Superman." Lois Lane gets the scoop on the new hero in town, and when the two go out for a nighttime flight over Metropolis, romance is in the air. If there's one man alive who doesn't appreciate Superman's good deeds, it's Lex Luthor. Why doesn't he appreciate these good deeds? Because it takes away from appreciation that could be showered upon Lex Luthor. Our villain here is cooking up a hell of a scheme. He has purchased a ton of currently worthless land in California. It's worthless because it's not on the beautiful coast. But what if it were on the beautiful coast? It'd be worth a fortune. There you go. Lex Luthor is going to detonate a charge right on California's San Andreas fault line, killing millions of people, sure, but that's not important. What's important is the fact that his worthless land will now be the new coast, and he will be richer than God. The only person who could possibly stop him now is this new blue Boy Scout. Luthor earns both parts of the term evil genius, unfortunately, and he connects the dots in no time that Superman is not from here. With a rock of kryptonite in hand, Luthor sets a trap, and Superman walks right into it.
Little souvenir for the old hometown. I've spared no expense to make you feel right at home.
Mind over muscle?
If it weren't for Luthor's girlfriend, the lovely Eve Tessmacher, having a change of heart and removing the kryptonite from Superman's neck, this whole thing would have gone off without a hitch. Thank God for her, right? With Luthor's missiles launched, Superman springs into action, chasing down and eventually rerouting one of the warheads into the safety of outer space. But the other one finds its home. The fault line begins to collapse and all hope seems to be lost until Superman descends into the Earth's core and literally lifts the planet back into position, preventing the deaths of millions. In the aftershock, he rescues a bus full of children from falling into the ocean. He lays himself down to complete a broken railroad track, but nobody can be everywhere all at once. While creating a blockage to prevent a flood that would have wiped out countless innocent people, Lois Lane is trapped. She's buried alive, and when Superman finally gets to her, it's too late. Lois Lane's death, much like his father's, rocks Clark to his core. Going against everything instilled on him by Jor-El, Superman interferes with human history, flying around the Earth so fast that he reverses its rotation, rewinding time, allowing him to reach Lois before it's too late and save her life. Luthor is captured and turned into the authorities, the day is saved, and that is Superman the movie. How about that? I went as fast as I could while still delivering all of the information you need to know. Look, it's a 2.5-hour movie. I did my best. Is the rewinding time by flying around the Earth thing backwards ridiculous? Of course it is. Is lifting the entire fault line back into position some peak he's too powerful sort of stuff? Sure. But here's the thing. Superman isn't real. The animated series iteration of Superman is definitely tuned down in this department, at least in comparison to what the public consciousness views Superman as. In that world, pretty much all of his enemies, all of his foes, can hurt him and even incapacitate him. Here in Superman the movie, dude is out of control, but this is what's important. Neither of these iterations of Superman are any more real than the other. But the argument over how powerful Superman truly is irrelevant. And if there's one thing that this film absolutely nails, it's that aspect of the character. Even with every power known to man, even with unrivaled levels of strength and the ability to apparently reverse time, Superman the movie understands that this character is not defined by what he can do. And they make that clear in the early going. When Jonathan Kent dies of a heart attack, Clark tells his mother at the funeral,
"All those things I can do. And I couldn't even save him."
And there it is. That one line, that one quote drives it home. Superman has never been a great character because of his powers. Superman is a great character because of who he is inside. Superman is a great character because even though he can fly, he can swim through lava, he can do all these things, it's like, so what? That's just a part of his job. What he wants is to impress the girl he's crazy about. What he wants is to be loved. He wants to put a smile on a child's face. He protects people and saves the day not because he has to. He does it because it's the right thing to do. Superman has never been the best because he can fly, man. He's the best because he has every opportunity to be the worst, and he never takes it. And with that said, we can get away from the discussion surrounding strength and powers and all that sort of nonsense, and now we can talk about the production of this film. The casting, the set design, the budget, the arguments. This is where it gets juicy. Choosing a director for such a gigantic project wasn't easy, and several big names were thrown around in the early going. At certain points, Steven Spielberg, Guy Hamilton, and even George Lucas were a part of the conversation. But when it came down to it, the job went to Richard Donner. Fresh off the 1976 horror smash hit The Omen, Donner was looking to continue his critical and commercial winning streak. With a director in the chair and a story penned by Godfather author Mario Puzo, it was time to assemble a cast. Superman, as a character, as an IP, hell, as a logo, transcends the term legendary. And finding an actor to don the cape was no easy feat. Over 200 actors auditioned for the role, and just like the director's slot, the big names were being tossed around left and right. The producers were going crazy, throwing around names like Muhammad Ali, Clint Eastwood, Al Pacino. In these early stages, it seems like you can just say anything. A formal offer went out to Robert Redford, who turned down the role without a second thought, much to the delight of director Richard Donner. Donner didn't dislike Redford or anything. He just thought audiences would be distracted by such a high-profile star flying through the air. And that's where Christopher Reeve comes in. With one credit to his name, Reeve perfectly fit the bill Richard Donner was looking for. A total unknown. Somebody you wouldn't see dressed up as Superman. Somebody you'd simply come to know as Superman. Legend has it that everybody loved Reeve during his audition, but they all agreed he was just too skinny. So Reeve hit the gym like a madman. He packed on nearly 30 pounds of raw muscle, and there he was. There's our Superman. But Christopher Reeve doesn't get top billing on the poster. Hell, he's not even second bill. Every big blockbuster needs a gigantic name attached to the project, right? Insert Marlon Brando as Jor-El, the biological father of Superman. You know Marlon Brando. I don't have to spend minutes talking to you about his legacy. His resume speaks for itself. Now, it goes without saying that when you hit a certain level of success, you might find yourself a little more powerful in your field. Brando's involvement with Superman the movie is not one of his finer moments. He refused to memorize any of his lines and forced the crew to keep cue cards on top of the camera. He took the largest salary of anyone on the film, coming in at nearly $4 million, and signed on for only 12 days worth of shooting. To put things into perspective, Christopher Reeve made $250,000 for his work on both Superman and Superman 2. I'll spare you the story about Brando attempting to opt out of physical performance altogether, instead providing the voice for a Jor-El who looked like a bagel. I've never heard Christopher Reeve speak an ill word about anybody, but it's worth dropping in this 1982 Letterman appearance right here.
We've had two other people on the show who've worked with Marlon Brando, and I know you worked with him for a few days. And anything interesting come of that relationship?
I must say, I don't say this to be vicious, but I don't worship at the altar of Marlon Brando because I feel that he's copped out in a certain way. He's no longer in the leadership position that he could be. He could really be inspiring a whole generation of actors and by continuing to work. But what happened is the press loved him whether he was good, bad, or indifferent, where people thought he was this sort of institution no matter what he did. So he doesn't care anymore, and I just think it would be sad to be 53, whatever he is, and not give a damn, that's all. I just think it's too bad that the man has kind of been forced into that hostility.
We've also got the fantastic Margot Kidder stepping into the role of Lois Lane. Our second star on the poster is Gene Hackman, who plays Lex Luthor, the big bad villain. We've got great actors for days on this cast, but you didn't click on this video for me to read out a full IMDb page, did you? No. The relationship between director Richard Donner and the producers, Alexander and Ilya Salkind, was horrendous. Arguments turned into shouting matches turned into wars turned into bringing on a secondary director in the event that the Salkinds fired Donner. It was a mess. And this was all compounded by the fact that Superman wasn't the only film in production with this team, as Superman 2 was being filmed at the exact same time. Doing two projects back to back like this doesn't happen all that often, and maybe this is why. There was a time where the Salkinds said, you know what? Stop working on Superman 2 entirely. Just finish Superman 1, and if it sucks, if it bombs, it's all over. They were ready to take all of the work for Superman 2 and toss it directly in the garbage and wash their hands of the entire thing. Keep in mind, the budget for Superman 1 had already skyrocketed to $55 million, making it the most expensive film ever produced. That all sounds normal, right? This sounds like a healthy working environment? Jeez Lou. Now I told you this was gonna get juicy, right? I think this has lived up to the hype. The drama, the lawsuits, the firings, some not so great relationships between some of your top billed stars. It's all here. But I don't want to focus specifically on the drama, because that would be taking the hard work and unbelievable craftsmanship behind Superman the movie and selling it short. At the top of this video, I romanticized the time before superheroes were everywhere and everything. Let's take that same idea and turn it toward the subject of CGI. In 2022, everything in these movies is CGI. The damn capes are computer generated these days. The capes! Nobody films on location anymore, and why would you, when you can create a blurred out, murky, ugly city straight off a green screen? In 1978, this wasn't an option. And oh my goodness gracious, am I happy about that. The Fortress of Solitude is the real deal, man. This set was built on the largest film stage in the world. The crystals and ice are styrofoam. The snow is made of thousands of pounds of salt. The waters underneath, totally legit. Legit to the tune of 800,000 gallons of water flowing between the cracks in the glaciers. When the Golden Gate Bridge is collapsing after the crack forms in the fault line, that's a miniature. And when I say miniature, you might be thinking, wow, that looks pretty big for a mini. It is! This thing was 70 feet long, man. Handcrafted, no joke. Every time we see Superman take off from a standstill, they're legitimately pulling Christopher Reeve 50 feet into the air with cranes and pulleys and all sorts of equipment. Reeve performed several of these stunts himself as well, which is obvious, as his face is never hidden during the takeoffs or flights. One of my favorite effects, and this one is famous, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm the first person to notice this or anything, is the transition from Clark to Superman. Clark's back and shoulders are always hunched forward. His chin is pulled into his neck in a rather unflattering manner. His voice cracks. He's a goof. Superman stands tall and proud. His speech is measured and confident. His every step is delivered with zero wasted motion. Watching the transition in real time is fantastic. This is exactly how the two characters are depicted in the comics, and never before has it been shown off better in live action to this day. You can go ahead and talk about, oh yeah, a pair of glasses, they'll never guess. But there have been a handful of memes over the years that shoot holes in that premise in a hilarious manner. Sometimes I wonder how this film would hold up with today's audience, and I don't mean that in a disparaging, oh, nobody pays attention, everybody's always on their phones sort of way. Even though that is largely true, that's not what I meant. What I mean is, Superman the movie is another animal entirely. This is not the Dark Knight, this is not the Avengers, this is something else. Everything that happens here, it all has room to breathe. We don't actually see Superman until the 42-minute mark. And even then, we see his first flight, and then it's Clark Kent time. When things do get going, it's boom, boom, boom. But we earn our way to these big moments. And maybe that's not totally unlike the superhero films of today, but this is. Superman doesn't fight anybody in this movie. Nobody. There are zero fights. I feel like that's the main event nowadays, right? And it's not even like, oh, there's one fight and it's the main event. It's usually like the 5th or 6th battle in the movie that's the biggest, the longest. That's the fight that's fitting for a finale today. Here in Superman, no. In place of a superhero fighting and destroying a city and killing thousands of people or going blow for blow with his nemesis, we're simply witnessing the Man of Steel doing what he does best. Saving the day. You guys tell me, because I'm not really sure. A couple years ago, my girlfriend and I went to the theater for the 40th anniversary of Superman the movie, and she said she liked it, but she doesn't care about Superman, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to get her to watch another superhero movie for the rest of our lives, but, you know, maybe she's not the best audience to pull from in this regard. And while we've spent a ton of time on the high points of this film, now I want to poke a little bit of fun at it. Why not, right? I find it funny that Lois Lane, the greatest journalist the Daily Planet has on their roster, can't spell some pretty basic words.
How many T's in bloodletting?
2. What are you writing, Miss Lane?
Ode to Spring. How do you spell massacre?
The way I see it, it's a banner headline, front page, with maybe an aperture.
There's only one P in rapist.
The explosion of Krypton is extreme. It's traumatic. It's super gnarly. Millions are dying in this scene, and entire people are going extinct. But when the planet explodes, you can see the black curtain the effect was filmed in front of. I love stuff like this, that old school charm. Does anybody else get a huge kick out of the fact that nobody in this movie pronounces Krypton correctly?
Has threatened even the children of the planet Krypton.
I tell you, Krypton is simply shifting its orbit.
You're my wife. Leave Krypton.
What the hell is Krypton? Jeff East, who played the teenage version of Clark Kent, races a train on foot. This effect is really, really goofy looking, it goes without saying. But it's worth noting that Jeff East not only suffered injuries to his legs during this scene, but was nearly hit by the train as well, as the crane carrying him malfunctioned after the big jump. Good God. With all of the issues behind the scenes, the highest budget ever allotted to a feature film, a nearly finished sequel being put on hold before the original even released, and a terribly damaged relationship between the director and the producers, it wouldn't have been out of the question for Superman the movie to crash and burn. But it didn't. Spoiler, right? You didn't see that coming. Superman would go on to gross over $300 million at the worldwide box office, becoming the highest grossing film in all of North America for 1978, and the highest earning movie in Warner Brothers history up to this point. Critics absolutely loved it. the film would be nominated for 4 Academy Awards, taking home the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. John Williams' beautiful score is famous to this day and is still synonymous with the character. I wish I could play some of it for you, but that's Copyright City. Thanks, YouTube. In 2017, Superman the movie was selected for preservation in the Library of Congress National Film Registry. Several sequels were to come, with more action, more silliness, more heroism, but we'll save those conversations for another time. The trailers and posters for this film made one promise, and one promise only. You'll believe a man can fly. Whether he's saving a little girl's kitten from a tree, saving the world from evildoers, or taking the woman he loves for a romantic nighttime stroll over the city of Metropolis, it's all here. Superman the movie is magical. It's inspiring. You'll believe a man can fly. And maybe, just maybe, you'll believe you can, too. Oh, there it is. That's my retrospective on Superman the movie. Now look, obviously there's more to the story. It's been 40-something years since this film debuted, and maybe there are parts of this that you think I should have covered and I didn't, but remember, this is Superman for everyone. I don't want to deliver books and books of behind-the-scenes information that maybe only hardcores would enjoy. I want this to be palatable and enjoyable for everybody. Now, if you liked this video and you want to see more Superman for everyone, and specifically you want me to cover Superman 2, Superman 3, Superman 4, so on and so forth, let me know down in the comments. There are plenty of Superman films that we can talk about, and I would be happy to do so. I would also be very happy if you decided to support me over on patreon.com/616entertainment, because channels like mine live and die by your support. You don't have to support me over there, but if you choose to, it's highly appreciated, and I love you. I hope you guys had fun with this episode. I certainly did, and I will see you again very soon.